All right. Good evening, everybody. And my name is Ashley. I'm one of the 4K leaders, and I'll be with you guys tonight going over our work with me. And if you have questions, you can obviously drop them in the chat. So I know, depending on how your work schedule is, I'm a teacher. So for me, work with me or kind of growing my network or doing what I need to do or doing my focus IPAs definitely gets split between first thing in the morning as soon as I wake up and then at nighttime. So usually at nighttime, whatever I didn't do in the morning, like my birthdays, things like that, I will do at night before the rest of my day. So one of the first things that I'm going to have us do, if you have not done so yet, if you haven't posted your products in your stories, that's always the very first thing. That's something that is a non-negotiable I do in the morning as my one and done for my IPAs, is making sure there's products in my story, making sure that I've gone face to face first thing in the mornings. If it's not first thing in the morning, at least at some point during my day, I'm showing my face and either talking about what's going to go on throughout my day, or I'm talking about the products, depending on if I'm working on my shake at that point when I come on or anything of that nature. So I'm going to have us first start on Facebook before we go on Instagram, because if you have not yet, did your birthdays, because that's something Lynn's always talks about, is making sure you're saying happy birthday to people. If you have not done your birthdays, that is something that is very personal. And one thing that I'm challenging even myself to do is not just going on their wall and saying happy birthday, but if it's somebody that you know, like really know on your Facebook, message them personally and wish them a happy birthday. And make it unique, not just a happy birthday, like really genuinely say, oh, I hope you're having a great birthday, or what is it you're planning on doing this evening, or even for the weekend, depending on where the birthday lies. And just doing that. So let us at first go on birthdays, and I'm only going to do like a 2-minute timer, because usually birthdays don't take that long, and especially if you're privately messaging them. So let's do birthdays if you have not done that yet. All right, so what I'm going to have us do, since we're already on Facebook, is I want us to go onto our stories. And obviously, if you know how to go on, you'll just swipe all the way down to like your furthest story. One, that way you can see their stories more frequent. Sorry, guys, words are jumbled today. And then also, if you have fellow thrivers on your stories, mute. I will mute most of them, because I don't want to just see thrive, and I don't just want to see people on here. I want to be able to see people that I genuinely, that I know that isn't part of Thrive or isn't part of this tribe, to build those connections with, to build those relationships with. So I would encourage you to also mute fellow thrivers. You do not have to, but I know for me, in order for me to not just be swiping, or just tapping away, and that way I'm also doing those focus IPs where I'm commenting on stories, like actually commenting, not just saying, oh, that's pretty, oh, that's nice, like actually asking questions. And that's something too to think about. If it's something on their stories that genuinely pulls out to you that you really want to know about, ask them, as opposed to just saying, oh, that's nice, just one word answers or emojis, something. You're not building a connection when you're just dropping emojis in their stories. So actually commenting and having a conversation. And if it's something that you don't relate to them, then either mute their stories or move on, depending on who the person is. So I'm going to put the timer on for 4 minutes for us to focus on stories in Facebook right now. And again, if you have questions, or if you need to know something, please do not hesitate to ask in the question box, and I will answer that for you. All right, so that timer is done. So what we'll go into now is just another where we comment on friends' posts. So something that I personally will do is I'll go on like my latest couple of posts. And for any friends, whether they liked it or commented, I'll then go on their page and go on their most recent couple of photos and react. And either I comment on there, or if there's nothing to comment, then most of the time I'll either unfollow them or things like that. And I do that even on Facebook. I may not fully unfriend them, but I'll unfollow them, especially if they aren't really, having anything, or if they haven't shared anything in the past week. Um, so that is something that I try to do. So what I'm going to have us do, like I said, we're just going to comment on friends of their posts that they've shared on their page for the next 4 minutes. So what I would do is at least comment on two friends' posts and then go on to the next person. Don't go just aimlessly wandering on that person's page trying to find something. If you don't find anything, move on to the next person that is on your page that's commented or liked your post and go on their stuff. So I'm going to set the timer up for 4 minutes and we'll focus on commenting on posts of those that we follow. All right, timer is done. Okay, so I'm going to have us roll over onto Instagram, and I want us to go into our stories. Same thing, just if you don't know how to do that, just swiping all the way over to your most recent story. Oops, sorry, to your most recent, your latest stories on your friends list, and going on there and commenting or anything. And again, if you're not finding anything, excuse me, then mute them. Mute them if there's nothing there that you connect with, or if it's somebody that also is a fellow thriver that's on our tribe or even on another team. Just to build again those relationships and those connections, because even how you do things on Facebook is not always going to be the same on Instagram. So 4 minutes, Instagram stories, and then I will go into our next bit. Okay, timer is up. So so since we're on Instagram, and I try to make sure I do this, is I will take a picture of, especially if I'm on, whether it's our Monday night team training, a Zoom work with me, or anything where I'm getting involved in some sort of working, like growing with the team, or getting poured into. I always take a photo, just one, to show other people that there's community here, there's team here, and that we're always learning and we're always building. So that's something that I try to make sure that I do. So I'll always, whether it's me doing a boomerang or a quick little video of everybody, that's something that I'll do. So if you have not done that yet and taken a picture or done like a boomerang to share to your stories, I would definitely encourage. And if you want to tag people, you guys can drop your Instagram handles in the chat. That way, for anybody that, because then what you can do is you can always save your video and then post it up later once you get everybody's Instagram handle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if you want to do that as well, absolutely go for that. Okay, and then if you haven't done so yet, I'm gonna put my Instagram handle in there for anyone that needs it. And then yes, anyone else that has Instagram, definitely share your handle on here for other people. And then once you shared your Instagram and once you've taken your picture or your boomerang or your video, what we're going to do is we're going to work a little bit on growing our network, which what I've started doing before, I used to go based on people that followed me and then going under who follows them. But I started recently going under the search bar, which is a little hourglass, and then either looking at the reels that I feel relate to me or posts that I feel that I can relate to, and going through the comments or anyone that's liked those posts and kind of filtering that way. And then what I'll do is I'll follow them. And then the next day I'll do those focus IPAs where I'm looking at their three most recent posts, their stories and things like that. And then if it's someone that I just maybe don't click with, then I'll unfollow them. And a way to be able to filter who your most recent followers are is you'll go under, just before we get into it, you'll go under your following followers under your bio. And then where you go under following, it'll show sort by default. And there's like an up and down arrow. And what you can do is it'll ask, you want default or your latest following or your earliest following? And so you'll want to go to your latest following, which is the middle one. And then that'll let you know who your most recent followings are in order for you to do those 3, 2, 1s on those new people you just added. So because usually what I'll do is I'll add people first couple of days, and then like Sunday, Monday, I'll kind of filter out and unfollow. And especially it'll let me know too the people that I've least interacted with. And I'll also go on there too to kind of filter out if I need to unfollow. So that way we get new eyes, new faces on there. So we're going to take 4 minutes to focus on growing our network, following people in that way. And then we'll focus on comments and things like that. So All right, so the timer is done with that. So one thing I will do now is, if in my last like couple of comments, posts that I've shared, if I haven't responded to those posts, or depending on which post you want to like boost up, to get people to kind of see it a lot more, I'll go on there and comment under those. So if you have yet to do that, and I meant to have us do that on Facebook and completely forgot, so we will do that after this. But go on your post that you felt like you wanted to get the most traction, and make sure if you haven't commented under there, if anyone's commented, that you comment and respond to their posts. And don't just say, oh, when people try to give you their one words, at least give them a little bit more than just thanks. If they say, oh, you're so pretty, give them a little bit more. So we'll do that for about 3 minutes instead of 4. So we'll do that for 3 minutes, and then we'll move over to Facebook to do the comments under your post from there.
thing for me.
All right, so that timer just stopped. So we're gonna go on to Facebook again because like I said, I forgot to have us go on our post and comment under our latest post that we've shared. So I'm gonna give you guys 4 minutes for that. So anything that you shared, whether it's a reel that you shared on your Facebook or just a regular post or anything like that, comment under anyone that's commented under your stuff, and then we'll go into our little final things after that. All right. One final thing that I want to share before we close out tonight, um, something that I definitely have personally noticed, and hopefully any of you that are doing this yourselves, that has really one boosted up on followers and things like that, or even just people interacting, whether it's in my stories or on my posts, is doing reels or TikToks. I know sometimes you can be afraid, like, oh, I don't want to look silly, but with reels slash TikToks, that's okay. It's okay to look silly. It's okay to not have it all together, but it's something that's so good to step out of your comfort zone. So if you have yet to do reels, I encourage it. And all your reels don't necessarily have to be Thrive related. It could be something that is in your fives. So, Lynn's has talked about, Em's talked about, a lot of our leaders have talked about your fives list. So the 5 things that are about you besides just Thrive, because you were you before Thrive. So if you're a mom, making a funny reel about, mom life. If you are a person that likes to have, wine all the time, making a funny reel about, what it's like to just always wanting your wine. We have a lot of pregnant Thrivers on here. So sharing, that pregnancy life as a funny reel. There's so many things you can think about and that you can do and put together. It doesn't necessarily have to be this picture perfect. And believe me, sometimes when it doesn't look like the picture perfect reel or TikTok, sometimes are the best ones. There have been times where I've recorded TikTok or a reel and I'm like, oh, this did not look its best, or I didn't think, like, oh, my hair didn't look right, or I didn't wear the right shirt, or whatever it is, when that could be the one where someone's like, oh my gosh, this is great. And don't be afraid to create a bunch of different reels, even if you're in the same outfit, but save them into your drafts. And then, with the batching content that Rochelle does on Sundays, those are great because even you can use those content ideas for your reels. I have probably like a whole bunch of content ideas in my notes that I use in my reels or in my posts. And that's another thing. If you're not, even if you can't make it on those planning Zooms or those batching content Zooms, I can't because I'm usually at church. You can watch the replays, even if it's an old one, but create a folder for yourself. That's something that I try to do to help me stay as organized as possible, because that's just the teacher and mom in me. Is I literally created a separate folder for weekly planning and batching content, and then just creating other mini folders underneath. That way I have things that I can just pull out, because if there's ever a day where things don't go according to plan, something happens with the kids, or I've got to go to the doctor, or something happens, I at least know, hey, I've got all of my organized posts that I'm going to post in that folder and be like, oh, there it is. And then boom, just post. So that's something I would encourage to do, even as we're doing these work with me, is just having an organized folder in your notes, whether you have an iPhone or you have an Android. But creating folders for yourself, honestly, that's probably been the best thing I've done for myself to save my sanity. If you have a planner, put it on your planner so that way you can have an idea. Okay, Monday, I'm going to post about this. Tuesday, Tuesday's payday. I'm going to definitely post a post about payday, or make a reel about payday. But try to be intentional with how you organize each day when you're sharing, as opposed to being like, I don't know what to talk about today. Be as intentional as possible, because I can guarantee you, the more you make it a habit, the easier it becomes. I'm listening to the audiobook, Badass Habits. And that is something that they say, when you just get repetitive on those same routines. So like making sure you're doing those, like Lindsay says, making sure you're doing those birthdays, making sure you're doing your affirmations in the morning, making sure you're doing your gratitudes, getting on people's messages saying happy birthday, things like that. When you get intentional and make it a routine, it becomes second nature. And then you're not over here spinning your wheels like, oh, what do I need to do today? You're already doing it. So working on getting in that habit of doing those things, then you're not going to stress yourself out, because then the last thing you want to, because then you're not over there either getting in your uplines inbox, or whether Lindsay's your upline or Christy or Rochelle, you're not going, I don't know what to post about today. You kind of have an idea. And honestly, those business self-developments like Lindsay was talking about will definitely help you. And self-developing, getting into a business related podcast or audiobook or reading, if you like to actually read, helps you also pull out good content and pull out good posts for yourself too. So that was just my last little tidbit that I wanted to share. But again, if you have questions, definitely before I shut this down, you can definitely drop them in the comment section before we close out. And if there is nothing, I'm going to give it a couple minutes, and then if there's nothing, then we'll definitely Tea for Two podcast. Awesome. I'm going to definitely put that down in my notes for sure, because I personally love a good podcast. Tea for Two. So I'm putting that down. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing that. Yeah, I do love a good podcast. Podcasts are probably one of my favorites aside from audiobooks. That's why I even started one, just because I think it's so good when you can get some inspiration from other people and just hear a voice. Because sometimes when somebody speaks, you definitely get a different feel and a different type of motivation. So I hope that if nobody has anything else, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday night. I am going to post this recording up and I'll share it in the Limitless chat. And then it'll also be up on my YouTube page as well. So thank you so much for coming on, and have a good night.